Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. We have to understand and have with our consciousness on a steady basis the knowledge of the absolute, all-encompassing nature of Allah. We have to be constantly aware that God is with us at every moment and all the time, and never abandons us. We have to be aware that Allah guides us and takes care of all that we need. Any situation that we are in, we have been put there through Allah. So who is going to take us out of the situation that we are in other than Allah? And why do we look in other places to resolve our situations? We need to be able to concentrate on our closeness to Allah all of the time. We need to keep at the forefront of our consciousness the fact that God is with us, God maintains us, God sustains us, and takes care of all of our needs. And there are no intermediaries. There seem to be intermediaries, but there are not intermediaries. All help comes directly from Allah. All grace comes directly from Allah, and it comes directly to us, and it is with us all the time. It's like the fish who wonders where water is and doesn't understand until it's pulled out of the water. We are in constant connection with God, and all of creation is a proof of his existence because he created all of it. Without his constant maintenance, we would not be able to see it. We wouldn't be able to know it. We wouldn't be able to be within it. So we need to constantly remember who put us here, who maintains us here, who sustains us here, and who keeps us alive. And it's all Allah. So any situation that we are in that is difficult, we need to allow Allah to correct for us. And we have to ask for that correction to come from him. It's also important to, as much as you can, stay in a state of communication with Allah. Talk to him on a constant basis from the deepest parts of you. Express to him at all times your innermost feelings, your innermost difficulties, all that is troubling you and all that is positive. And you should also always begin all of your conversations with Allah, thanking him for all he has done for you. Otherwise, it would seem you're ungrateful. And it's not for us to be ungrateful because we are in a constant state of gratitude for what he has done for us. So we need to thank Allah at all times for all that he has done for us, and then explain to him everything in minute detail that is troubling us. This will bring about a closer relationship between ourselves and Allah. And the point of all of this is to create a closer relationship between ourselves and Allah. We want to know Him. We need to know Him, and we want Him to grace us with the knowledge of His true nature. We want Him to grace us with the understanding of His qualities and the understanding of His gracious attributes. If we can do this, then our life will become simple. We have this tendency as humans to complicate our existence. And we complicate it by thinking that we are the ones who are doing the work within this world, when in truth, we are the recipients of Allah's grace. And we are constantly the recipients of Allah's grace. So we do what we do the best that we can, but we always understand that in truth, Allah is the doer, and Allah is the one that is constantly helping and supporting us in our efforts. And without that support, without His direct interference, we couldn't do anything. Action is a very important part of what we do. So as we pray to Allah for mercy and compassion on ourselves and on all of those near us and the world, we also have to have mercy and compassion in our own being for all that we encounter and all that we see. One time when I was in Sri Lanka, in the house where Bawa lived, this is in 1981, there was a doctor who had dengue fever. And dengue fever it's not malaria, but it's a pretty strong disabling event. And the doctor was lying on a mat on the floor in this house that had a lot of people in it from Sri Lanka and from the United States who were visiting Bawa. And Bawa called for the doctor to come to his room. And the doctor could barely move. And Bawa was on the second floor. And so the doctor crawled from his space to the stairs, crawled up the stairs, finally got into Bawa's room. And Bawa looked at him and he said, "That was difficult, wasn't it?" The doctor said, "Yes." And he said, "Understand the difficulty that all your patients are in. Understand the compassion that they need. Now go back to your place." The point being that many times we have to experience difficulties in order to understand other people's difficulties. We have to experience difficulties in order to have empathy for other people's difficulties. And it is our place to be constantly kind, to be constantly supportive, and to be constantly an aid to those who are in need. If we expect Allah to be constantly an aid to us, how can we not be constantly an aid to others? How can we not be a constant help and assist to those in need? How can we not establish a state of empathy within ourselves where we feel the pain and difficulty of others? Of course, we can also feel the joy and celebrate the joyousness within others. The heart is a big part of this process. And there's a story about a king who had a son who he had educated, sent him to all the best schools. And when he brought him back home, the son was asked by his father to bring this very large stone up 2 flights of stairs into a certain chamber. It was the size of a millstone that you grind wheat with. And the son couldn't do it. And the king said, well, of course I didn't expect you to bring it up all in one piece. You have to shatter it in order to be able to elevate it, in order to be able to bring it up. And there's a painting that Bawa had done, which is the breaking open of the rocky mountain of the heart. And each of us has to shatter the rocky mountain within our own heart, that huge stone within our own heart, shatter it into pieces so that we can then elevate into the higher spaces, elevate into the transcendent spheres. It's when we have a broken heart, we can then understand all of the broken hearts in the world, all of the difficulty in the world, all of the places where people suffer, and then we can transcend and help the people in those places. Our transcendence is incredibly important to our well-being and our state of being. To stay within a calm and stable state, you have to be transcendent. You can't stay in the lower self and stay calm and stable, because the lower self has animal reactions. In our backyard, we have raccoons every once in a while. And if you go near a raccoon in a corner, it bares its teeth, becomes extremely agitated, and looks very dangerous. Well, if we stay in our animal state, when we're cornered, when we have a difficult situation, that's what's going to happen to us. We will have animal reactions to things as opposed to transcendent reactions to things. We will believe that we have to handle the situation as opposed to Allah handling the situation. So we have to know the difference between our own states. We have to know when we are in an animal state and when we are in a transcendent state. And we have to concentrate and ask for a favor to be able to stay in that transcendent state. The longer that you can stay in the transcendent state, the less you will be inclined to the lower qualities, such as anger and jealousy and hatred, theft, murder, lust, all of the things that come about from the animal qualities. We need to grow beyond and above the animal qualities. And one of the things that we have to learn in order to be able to do that is not to take things personally. For example, in many countries, including the United States, people who drive react to other people who drive as if they are somehow personally cutting them off because of their relationship somehow with them, or things are being done personally to them. This is particularly evident in certain parts of the country. When I was in Florida, I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of anger on the roads. In Turkey, people drive very crazy, and they become really irate when other people also drive like them. They barely realize that they are the ones who are doing most of the craziness. We need, just as when we're driving, to understand that things aren't personal, we need to understand that in relationships with others, things aren't personal. Now, there's a few ways to do this. One of them is to understand that you can only be really transcendent when the I in you disappears. Because when the I in you disappears, then there can be no personal insult, because there is no I. There's nobody there to be insulted. But as long as we bring the I to the forefront, and the I becomes a very prickly situation, everything is about the I. You'll often hear in conversation, this isn't about you, this is about me. And everybody, when they're speaking, usually turns the conversation to themselves, no matter what the situation the other person is in, no matter what the conversation is about. We need to somehow not turn the conversation to be about us. The I has to disappear. And one of the ways that we can do this is be conscious of Allah's constant being with us, and Allah's being in control and in charge of everything. So if everything comes from Him, if everything belongs to Him, if everything is done because of Him, what are we to get excited about ourselves? We need to be in a state where we are calm. It is said that a man of wisdom, when he is in the shade, does not seek to be in the sun, and when he is in the sun, does not seek to be in the shade. In other words, a man of wisdom becomes comfortable with the situation that he's in and is able to handle the situation that he's in. He's able to acknowledge that what he was given by Allah will be resolved by Allah. And all the kicking and stomping and screaming that he's going to do isn't going to change it. What's going to change it is the one who made it that way. So if Allah made it, who's the one who can change it? And who's the one you can look to for change? Allah. And Allah's power can do everything. But we need to be in a constant state of communication with Him, and then we will see and understand the subtle signs of direct action by Allah on our behalf. When we had the manifestation of the Sheikh in our presence, we saw his direct influence on us. Some people didn't recognize the extent of that influence. Some people didn't recognize the grace and the glory of that. One time, one of the translators was sitting with Bawa and said to Bawa, all these people come to you with these mystical dreams and these mystical experiences. I don't have any mystical dreams or mystical experiences. Bawa sat back, and then he looked her right in the face and he said, you have me, don't you? People didn't realize that when we were with the Sheikh, we were with a mystical experience. The Sheikh is no different than having dreams that come and tell you directly the solution to things or explain things to you, or having Allah come or send one of his angels to explain things to you. The Sheikh takes that position. The difference is it's manifest, and it happens in what we can see, touch, and feel. It happens within our sensory world. So we are in the midst of a sensory world, simultaneously being in a spiritual world with effects in the sensory world coming from a spiritual place that alter our perception of the sensory world. And what would seem to be chaotic to other people who are looking at this sensory world, to us, because of the influence and the guidance of the Sheikh, there is no chaos. There is just perfection. So to change chaos to perfection is not a matter of altering what's going on. It's a matter of altering your perception of things. If you think things are out of control, a lot of things happen to your being. You begin to have knots in your stomach. You begin to have headaches. You begin to have agitation. You begin to have anxiety. You begin to have stress. Your bodily functions change. Your heart rate goes up. Your blood pressure goes up. You physically react to the mental chaos that you are confronting. If you can do away with the mental chaos, then the chaos within your body will alter and go back to being within normal limits. But it takes you believing. And this is where faith, certitude, and determination come in. We not only have to believe in Allah, we have to believe very strongly in Allah. Our faith has to be very, very strong. And faith is believing in what we can't see, even if we don't have proof, even if we don't have constant signs of Allah's interaction with us. Even if we don't have these things, we don't give up our faith. We still believe very strongly that things will reach a situation that is perfect. And this takes great determination and certitude in our inner being. It's easy to go into a negative state and begin to have negative thoughts, but it is our obligation to stay in a positive state and have positive thoughts, no matter what the situation is. In the end result, we always have to understand that this life that we are in presently has a span to it and will have a time when we go into a different phase of existence. And if things aren't straightened out now, they'll be straightened out then, but they will be straightened out. Things will come to a point where everything is in order and everything is as it's supposed to be. And we need to believe it. If we can believe in this very, very strongly, then we will be in a place of rest and repose and calmness and tranquility. I remember when I was in close proximity to the Sheikh, when I was with Bawa in his room, it occurred to me that I was in the center of the universe, that everything revolved around that spot. And as I gave all of this more thought, I said, why am I in the center of the universe? I said, because God is here. And then later, I came to realize that wherever I went, God was there. So then I began to realize that wherever I was the center of the universe, because God is everywhere simultaneously. And wherever he is the center of the universe. So wherever you are is the center of the universe if your consciousness is transcendent enough to understand that and has enough faith to believe that. So we need to go through this world as if we are in the center of the universe. Rumi said, "You are not a drop of the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." And that is something that we need to get hold of. When Allah created man, he created a creature who had all of everything within him. So that's the transcendent nature of your creation. You were created as an exemplar of all that there is in existence. And all that there is in existence is within you. All of the planets, all of the animals, all of the stars are floating within you. You are an example of all of it. Each of us is an example of all of it. And when we can grasp that understanding and pull that into our being, we can understand the elevated nature of this creation that we are. And in understanding that elevated nature, we can understand how special each one of us is to Allah. And we also simultaneously have to understand the unity of all mankind and the fact that each one was created with that specialness, and that in the essence of unity, we are all connected in that sameness, in that Allah created us and made us in that way, made us the same way. We can't have one without the other. We can't believe in our own distinct separateness and speciality and be part of truth, because we then are missing the unity of all of creation, and we have separated ourselves from the rest of creation. So we need to understand our specialness and the specialness of everyone else. Now, in that understanding has to come humility. In that understanding has to come the fact that Allah created, how many billions of people are there on earth now? And so how many billions of people have all of the universe contained within them? And who created all of these billions of people? And who is in contact with all of these billions of people? And who maintains and sustains and keeps all of these billions of people going? All at once? It is beyond our comprehension. It is beyond our ability to understand. But we don't have to understand everything. And we have to be satisfied with the fact that we can't and won't understand everything, but that Allah will allow us to know what it is we need to know. And as we are capable of understanding more, He will give us more information and He will give us additional knowledge. And this knowledge isn't necessarily going to come from books. It isn't going to come from reading. It isn't going to come from listening. It's going to come in two ways. One, it can be a direct transmission from a teacher, or two, it's a direct transmission from that place inside of yourself when you are so unattached to the I that you are capable of forming a connection with the eternal that is going on around us all the time. It's like the Ketub is called an axis between the heavens and the earth, or an axis between God and the earth. And through that Ketub, through that pole, that relationship, that connection between heaven and earth maintains the earth. The dervishes, when they whirl, are trying to create that axis. We, as we walk and as we think, should be trying to create that axis, allowing Allah's truth to come into us. And Allah's truth comes into us when the I does not interfere with that truth, when the I is no longer at odds with reality. The I is from illusion, and the I can't get to know reality. Only when that I is transparent and doesn't create a taint on who we are, doesn't create self-motive in our objectives, can we then get to know the truth. Islam means to surrender. The I is the opposite of surrender. The I is the constant affirmation of existence. Surrender is the affirmation of servanthood and of releasing the self-will for His will. And in doing this, our relationship to reality changes. As long as the I and self-motive exist, our relationship with reality is I'm here and everything else is there or around me. When self-motive disappears and the I disappears, then we integrate into the unity of existence and we get to know all of existence, as opposed to spending our time getting to know ourselves and trying to make this I bigger and bigger and bigger. The I will not find peace because the I is attached to the mind. The mind is elemental. The mind, because it's elemental, is subject to all of the difficulties that the elements have and all of the conflicts that the elements have. For water to get along with fire, there has to be another paradigm, a transcendent place of existence that the mind can't understand. The mind cannot understand fire and water being able to be compatible at the same time. But in transcendence, fire and water are capable of being at the same place and the same time, because the rules that govern transcendence, this transcendent place, are different than the rules that govern our elemental world. It's as if you were able to see the components of fire and the components of water on a molecular level, as opposed to what happens when they are in full blossom, fire being in full force and water being in full force. If you pull one molecule of fire out of the fire and one molecule of water out of the water, there would not be interaction. It would be different on the plane of the elemental, the sub-elemental plane, the quantum plane. The reaction is different than on this physical plane. Now, these are concepts we don't need to understand necessarily, but they are concepts that we need to know about, to know that there are other phases in existence and other ways of existence going on. And in transcendent existence, in the existence of reality, in the existence of God's qualities, things are different than in the elemental world. And as long as our focus is on Allah, and our faith is with Allah, and our certitude is with Allah, and our determination is with Allah, and our belief system is strong in Allah, and we have no attachment to ourself, we unself the self, then we are capable of traveling in that transcendent world. We are capable of traveling in that world that isn't subject to the decay and the disintegration that the entire elemental world is subject to. So we have to yearn to be in that place. We have to ask Allah to put us in that place. We have to pray to Allah to give us that place and to give us the peace that comes with that place. If we don't have to worry about ourselves, imagine how much less we have to worry about. If we don't have to worry about what's going on around us, imagine how much more at peace we can be. So we need to give up our sense of control, and we need to surrender to the ultimate controller. And that one controller has been taking care of everything forever. Who are we to think that we can step in and begin to control? We have to become smaller and smaller and smaller and less insistent that things go our way, and be able to see why things happen and how they turn themselves around to show us that Allah's will is the correct solution to all situations and all understandings. When we can do that, our internal system changes, our features change, our external mannerisms change, the way we are with other people changes. There's a quietude that comes to us. There's a gentility that comes to us. There's an ease that comes to us in the way that we act with others. Their fear leaves our being because we are dependent on Allah and believe that Allah will rectify and resolve all things. And when that happens, we change. And change is the purpose of this path, to go from man to true man. And true man is the one who is integrated with the qualities of Allah. Ya Allah, our Father, our Creator, our Nourisher, and our Sustainer. Take us with you on the path that is eternal. Take us with you towards your gracious qualities. Take us with you so that we understand the nature of existence. Open up our hearts so that we know truth. Let us be able to function without the interference of self-motive. Let us be able to function as an ant-man, as our Father was, small and humble before our God, in surrender to your almighty power. Let us know you. Bring us to the place where we are close to you. Take us to that place where we are beyond judgment because we have acceded to your will. Bring us there, Allah. Take us with you and make us among those favored by you. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.